Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I just want to share with you my HG Super ReZEL, which is the result of the one-day build that I did just here recently. It was a live event and giveaway, so again, congratulations to everybody who won stuff in the giveaway. We gave a whole bunch of stuff all day long. Overall, the live stream was like 19 and a half hours in total length, basically from opening the box on this guy, starting from zero, and then going to this finished product as you see it now. Now, the only thing that I prepared ahead of time was the fuel tanks for the backpack and the double beam Gatling gun for the arm there. Those were custom parts that I added, so there were seam lines on those parts that had to be removed. So I prepared those parts ahead of time. Everything else on the kit was all done within that day. So there is a little bit of modification to it that I made there, obviously, just with the addition of those parts, the 3 fuel tanks there on the back, and then the double beam Gatling gun there from the HG Unicorn kit added onto the side of the arm. I wanted to just customize it a little bit just because I thought that'd be kind of fun, and also the beam rifle for this kit. Well, I like it. It's also just a little bit plain. I don't know, I want to do something different with it, so that's why I thought the double beam Gatling gun would look pretty cool on there. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. And then also just got the beam saber on there, obviously just pretty simple for that. And so the whole experience was a lot of fun, and it was basically just to challenge myself, just to see if I could do it. I was confident that I could, but it was basically just to see what would happen, just how it would turn out if I just tried to finish an entire build in a day. And honestly, like, looking at it after the stream was done and like I was just getting ready to go home and crash and go to sleep, because at that time it was like 3 a.m. And I was looking at it just before leaving my office here, and I was thinking, like, man, if I had spent like, you know, a normal like 1 or 2 weeks or whatever on that, just kind of a normal time for just a simple paint job for an HG, I would have been pretty happy with how that turned out. But the fact that I finished it in a day just kind of made me even a little bit more proud of it. And it's certainly not necessarily like my greatest work ever, of course, definitely not, but I still just think that I'm pretty proud with how this came out, just considering that it was all done in a day. So that's pretty awesome. Now, the color is obviously going to be a little bit striking because you guys voted on the color scheme for this. I did choose the options for the color scheme, basically between like Hyakushiki colors, Delta Plus colors, Anksha colors, or Banshee colors, and you guys chose Banshee colors. And so basically what would have been closer to like Banshee colors would have been just painting like all the white vent details in gold, would be more kind of closer to how the Banshee is colored. But I didn't really, like, thinking about that, I wasn't really sure that I really liked the look of that, having the vents in gold. So I decided to go for something a little bit more bold and just go for a gold inner frame for this. So I think that I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out, but I think it came out all right, actually. I don't think it looks that strange. It's pretty odd to see a UC era mobile suit, especially a grunt mobile suit, to have a gold inner frame. It's just not something that you see every day. But I think it came out pretty cool, actually. And based on the feedback that I've heard from a lot of you guys, it seems like a lot of you guys also liked it as well too. So that's pretty cool. It was certainly a risk. I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. But I think it ended up coming out pretty well. Basically, all the white parts ended up being just white for the most part. Those really didn't change the colors. I basically changed like the main color to black, and there is 2 tones there. It is kind of hard to see in the light. Hopefully you guys are able to see that there is like originally on the kit there's a darker blue and like a medium blue, and the darker blue is actually in it's not actually black. That was just in a super dark gray, basically black. And then the main color is supposed to be navy, but ended up not really being very navy. It's a very, very dark navy color. There's not really much blue in it, even though it's a custom mix, and I mixed a few different blue colors. And I added a pretty substantial amount of like royal blue in there, but I think just the grayish blue, the dark grayish blue that I had in the mix just kind of overpowered everything else, and so it ends up being very dark. But ultimately, I think the suit kind of basically looks black for the most part in the end, but you can see the 2 tones there around the chest and around the feet a little bit, which is basically the only parts that are in the darker black color. It's basically the chest and the feet. So the colors are pretty unique, but I think they came out pretty well, and I'm happy with how those came out. Now, the other fun part of the build, of course, was just the fact that all of you guys could see, I mean, there were mistakes happening with this kit. There were a few things that ended up needing to be fixed along the way, and so I think that was a really good thing about the whole experience, was that you guys could see live, you know, that mistakes were happening, stuff was not going right, and how I was able to fix that and kind of hide things. Of course, that's kind of how it goes with mistakes. You can either fix it or try to hide it in different ways, and so that's how I had to go about a couple things. Like because I wasn't able to clear coat the kit, usually after the painting I would give it a coat of clear coat, clear gloss, before going into doing the decals and everything. But because I was worried about how long I would have to wait for that to dry, I wasn't able to do that. So putting on the decals proved to be a little bit kind of challenging, because some of them just weren't really wanting to stick on there very well without a good glossy clear coat to stick down to. So we had an issue of some decals not sticking. Some decals had to be redone. On one part I put down the decal solution, the Mark Softer, on there, and then I kind of set the part aside and I forgot about it. And because the Mark Softer, like a little drop of Mark Softer, was sitting on there for so long, and the paint, you know, hadn't really it was dry enough to touch, all the parts were dry enough to handle, but it wasn't really totally cured. So that Mark Softer sitting on there ended up eating through the paint, and so I had to do a little emergency fixing on that, just a little bit of sanding and repainting like one of the parts on like the front of the leg a little bit there. So just these type of things, you know, are pretty normal to happen in a build. It's just not that you guys often get to see that, you know, live and see. So like on the fly fixing for that. So I thought that was definitely a good part of the whole experience for you guys to just get a chance to see that. Also, I mean, just the effect of seam line removal. I did remove a couple of seam lines on this live. There are a couple of seam lines that I left on there though. The seams that I removed actually end up being like the ones that I probably could have passed on the easiest, because they're the most invisible ones. Basically like the inner part of the shoulder, which is like basically hidden entirely by the shoulder armor, but the top part of the arm, I removed the seam lines on those. There is also a seam line on the top of the shoulder, but again, it's very difficult to see, and it helps that the color of the armor is also a very dark color. It makes it harder to see that. There's also a seam line on like the top of the backpack, the nose cone up there. There's a seam line running down the side of that, but the whole purpose of this was not to make it perfect, where I normally would just get rid of those seam lines and you know, do whatever modifications or things that I need to do in order to get rid of those. But this was just to kind of see what I was willing to accept myself personally, what I was willing to ignore, where I would normally, it would be hard for me to call this kit finished if I left those seam lines on there. But in this case, you know, I was able to do that, and I think, you know, they're hardly visible, and even if you see it, it's not, they don't look bad, I think. So, you know, it's okay. And the same thing goes for the use of the stickers as well too, for all those cameras. And this kit has a lot of cameras. So 2 on each shoulder, 3 on each shoulder, 1 on the back as well too. The 2 on the torso, the 2 on the head, there's 2 on the backpack. So all those stickers are just using the foil stickers included with the kit. Now I know, you know, normally any builders who paint and modify and do all that kind of stuff to their models, like modelers, wouldn't really go for the use of stickers, especially those kind of like foil stickers on the kits. But you know, I've always said that I think the foil stickers can work well enough for like cameras and stuff, if you got like, especially for the head cameras, because they're usually like sunken in there and they're not really all that visible unless you look at it from a certain angle. So using the foil stickers for a camera is not that bad. And in this case, I thought, well, all right, it's time to show that. And so I think here, as you can see, the foil stickers, I mean, if you really focus on them, you can see that they're like the foil stickers and not like a better option for that. But I don't think they look bad at all, in my opinion. You guys can let me know what you think about that, how those end up looking. But like I said, this build was just all about trying to make it as best I could with just very limited time and, you know, limited resources, not being able to do things based on the time constraint, basically. And another also kind of like happy accident of this that I didn't exactly plan on, but because the main color of the Mosu is so dark, doing any panel lining on that dark colors, basically, even if I use like black panel liner, it would hardly be visible. So I actually saved myself a lot of time from doing any panel lining on all the black parts. I really only had to do a little bit of panel lining basically on the white parts and the gold parts of the frame, and some panel lining like on the double beam Gatling guns. Basically anything that was not in like the super dark color, I did panel line, but there was very little of that. You know, most of the kit is in that really dark color. And if the panel lining's hardly going to be able to be seen at all, then, you know, I was able to just skip that, and that actually saved a lot of time, being able to skip out on a lot of panel lining that would have been necessary if I had done a lighter color on the armor. And just going back to the color real quick, one other thing that I remember too is that, I mean, going into the build, I knew what colors I was going to use, but I didn't exactly know how the color placement was going to go. When I started the build, when I started the stream, I wasn't sure on what I was going to do with the color scheme anyway. I knew what colors I had to work with, but it wasn't necessarily decided. So one thing that I had to decide was like just the color placement of things as well too. And so like the inside of the shield, for example, is like the same gray as like the rest of the gray of the mobile suit. So if I was painting the inner frame in like the usual kind of gray color, what you normally paint as like a normal inner frame color, then I would have painted the inside of the shield in the same color. So at first I painted the inside of the shield in gold, and I thought it just looked kind of ridiculous. It was a huge chunk of gold on the inside of the shield and just looked kind of silly, and I think it made sense in my mind for the frame to be gold, but for the inside of the shield to also be gold just kind of didn't really necessarily make sense. So I had to change that, and like repainting that part I ended up getting like a little bit of bad texture on the inside of that shield part, and so I just sprayed that with just some leveling thinner, just leveling thinner on its own, just sprayed that over that. And that leveled that out, and that texture ended up going away, and that came out fine. It's the inside part of the shield, so it's not that visible anyway, but I was able to fix that pretty simply as well too. And then some other unexpected things, like for example the shoulder joint between the torso and the arm, that's actually like a part of the torso, and when you have the kit together, you can see a little bit of that between the arm and the torso there, and with all the rest of the frame gold, that just made sense that that should be gold as well too, but it wasn't because it's just molded together with the chest parts, so I had to mask and paint that part gold later on as well too. And I actually ended up getting a little bit of gold over, like a little bit of overspray, like little gold flecks on some areas that were not supposed to get that. So I ended up having to try to remove that, obviously without removing the main paint as well too. And with the paint not having fully cured, it's only been on there for like a couple hours, it's kind of dangerous trying to remove anything without removing everything. So I mean, just stuff like that happened. I got the decals are mostly just the Haiku decals. We got like a mix of some other like actual marking decals, the Londo Bell, EFSF markings and stuff from different decal sheets. Mostly they're just Haiku decals. And also the 1D on the shield, just in case any of you guys haven't figured out what that means. That's just for 1 day. That's why I could put the 1D on there. I thought it was just a cool way to just kind of commemorate the whole thing. Just having like a special marking on there like that, just kind of, it's a little bit cheesy, I think, but it's cool to have on there just for the sake of it. So alright guys, I think that just about covers it. If you do have any other further questions or comments about this, of course, do feel free to leave those down below. Thank you so much for all of you guys who hung out during the live stream, especially those of you guys who donated via super chat at the time. All the super chat money that you guys donated will all be going to sending out all the prizes for everyone. So like I said, we had some awesome prizes to send out. So again, a big thank you to Troy for donating prizes. A big thank you to Alex, who came and hung out and helped out a ton all day long. He also donated some prizes as well too, so huge thank you to Alex. Of course, a huge thank you to USA Gundam Store as well for making it all possible. Wouldn't be able to do fun stuff like this and just do this stuff all day for you guys if it wasn't for the support of USA Gundam Store as well too, just making my job possible for you guys. This was a really fun experience for me, something I would recommend you guys to do. Maybe not necessarily try to do it in a day, because I mean, the ability to sit down for 19 hours straight and not go to bed like this. And honestly, I could have done it shorter had I not been also talking to you guys live and like hanging out with Alex and taking breaks to eat a little bit here and there. You know, you could have done it in probably 15 hours or something maybe. Well, I don't necessarily recommend or expect you guys to sit down and try to knock this out in a day. I would recommend you kind of to take on the concept of like the general idea of just trying to not hold yourself to too high expectations. And so what I mean is basically see what you can let yourself get away with in terms of just making something cool and simple. You don't have to make like your highest level work all the time. You know, just see how cool you can make something with, I don't want to say minimum effort, but your best minimum effort, or taking all the skills and experience you have as a modeler and seeing how you can do that in a way that is super efficient. I guess that's the thing. I'm having a hard time knowing exactly how to describe it, but I think efficient is probably the best word for it. See how efficiently you can build a model. So really, I think even if I had more time to work on this, really, I think like the only thing I really would have done differently, if I was going for, you know, just a simple clean HG build, which is what I really love to do, to be honest. I really love to do builds like this. But the only thing that I really would have done differently if I would have spent more time on it would have been just removing those seam lines that I left on there, and that's really kind of about it. Maybe a little bit more masking to make a little bit more color separation in some bits, maybe, but honestly I think it's pretty close to how I would have done it if I would have spent a week or 2 weeks or something on it, just kind of as a little simple side project or something. So yeah, that's it, guys. So again, if you have any further questions or comments, feedback, of course, feel free to leave that down below. If you also decide to challenge yourself to do a similar project, definitely share your results. Send me a message or something. Post something online, tag me so that I can see if you guys decide to take on a challenge of trying a 1-day build or a 2-day build or something like that, for example, a weekend build. I hope you guys will give it a try and share your results with everyone so you can all see how it goes. So thanks you guys so much for watching. I'll see y'all later. Bye guys.